Peach Pundit, the podcast, is a conversation filled with the personal opinions of the people who are participating. Any view or opinion expressed belongs only to the person who expressed it and not with anyone with whom that person is professionally affiliated. Welcome back to another episode of Peach Pundit, the podcast. I don't know why I'm doing that. I don't know. I'm exhausted. Buzz.
That could be your thing. All the radio hosts have a thing. That could be your thing.
Look, I don't want to torture the audience with that garbage. My name's Scott Turner. You are listening to Peach Pundit, the podcast. That is Buzz Brockway.
Yo.
Jason Pye is recovering from his wedding.
Yeah.
And sends his regrets. No, actually, he said, screw you people. Or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm only partly kidding.
I mean, I know Jason, as a self-proclaimed atheist, would not like this, but in the Bible, in the olden days, like in the Old Testament stuff, you took a year off from work to get used to your wife.
No, you had to repopulate the earth, or populate the earth, not repopulate, but populate, right? I think that was the whole thing. And people used to live for hundreds of years and stuff in biblical times. Buzz, we have a lot to get to. Not really. It's not a huge agenda, but we're going to go a little deeper than we do on some of these topics.
Some important stuff.
And we'll save the quick hicks for the quick hicks. In the meantime, I just want to bring your attention that our friends at Americans for Prosperity are working on a very important piece of legislation. They want you to ask yourself, are you concerned about excessive government regulations impacting our businesses and economy? The Reins Act, Reins is spelled R-E-I-N-S. The Reins Act aims to enhance transparency and accountability by requiring legislative approval for costly new state agency rules. I love this stuff, man.
Yes.
This ensures that Georgians have a stronger voice in the regulatory process. Join the movement to protect our state's prosperity. Visit GeorgiaReins.com. That's Georgia, REINS.com to learn more and take action. They were at the Capitol today. Mm-hmm. You could have been there with them. They're holding signs. They got their bill out of committee. Congratulations on that great work. Tony West, our friends at Americans for Prosperity, thank you for being a partner level Patreon. If you too would like to be a Patreon to the podcast, head on over to patreon.com/Peach Pundit right now. You can sign up for any one of our tiers starting at only $5 per month.
I saw one of their, those road trip photos that you see that sometimes families do. They were all piled into a van, did the selfie showing it was all the AFP folks heading down to the Capitol. So good stuff.
AFP and I, if I ever get super rich, I want to go work there just so I don't have to actually draw a paycheck. But here's another word for one of our Patreons.
Peach Pundit has an anonymous Patreon who would like to invite you to learn more about the Alzheimer's Association. The Alzheimer's Association leads the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia by accelerating global research, driving risk reduction and early detection, and maximizing quality care and support. No one should fight Alzheimer's alone. With your help, no one will. Learn more on their website, alz.org.
Buzz, here at Peach Pundit, we try to give the audience what they want.
Yes.
And that means rumors.
Yes.
Our audience loves them. There are a couple of different things that are really hot right now at Peach Pundit, the blog.
Right.
One is the series of articles that you've been writing about the Gwinnett School District. Weirdly,
no.
I mean, you get more traffic on those articles than the entire site combined. It's crazy.
It's a big county with a lot of kids and a lot of employees. So who the next superintendent is or will be is of interest to a whole lot of people.
Scandalous how they fired the last guy. No transparency whatsoever. Yeah. Right? And
he did some things that were problematic. Okay. I mentioned one of them in my most recent post. He tried to put through this thing called restorative justice for students. And it got to the restorative part and never seemed to really get to much of the justice part of it. And so there were fights. And tragically, it didn't happen on school grounds, okay? But a student walked out of Norcross High School and was assaulted and shot. I think he survived. I hope he survived. And so that was kind of the final straw. Parents were rising up and saying, "There's too much crap happening. Your restorative justice thing is crap," and they reeled it back in. But otherwise, he was pretty much doing what Alvin Wilbanks had done for 40 years when he was, ever how long he was superintendent, that made Gwinnett a pretty good school system. So,
yeah. So all that to say, that's something obviously
yes.
I wasn't aware that our audience wanted, and I've asked you to keep up with that and keep posting because the traffic is big. But the biggest thing to hit, Peach Pundit in 2025, it's only February 19th as we record, but the biggest thing to hit is the 2026 election rumor tracker. I published this thing last week, and my phone died by 3:00 because people were calling me to discuss different rumors. If you head on over to peachpundit.com, at the very top, it's a permanent link. In the menu is the link to the 2026 election rumor tracker, where we are now monitoring all election rumors for all offices, news that we hear, facts, but a lot of rumor. We break the races down by category: latest rumors, confirmed news, and debunked information. So far, we have not had any debunked information. We have had potential candidates reach out to us saying, "I want to run for Congress." Or not candidates, but a candidate. Kirkland Carden sent in an email on behalf of himself. He's a Gwinnett County Commissioner. He plans to primary David Scot for U.S. House District 13.
Pretty good guy, actually. I disagree with him on policy, but pretty good guy.
Right. And so we have 4 confirmed, whole bunch in the rumor category. And we have links to news stories. So it's not just us making it up. There are some of them that we just hear the rumor in the hallway, or there's some of us that are like reading the tea leaves and saying, okay, we think this person is positioning themselves.
Yeah.
But you can see for yourself. If you look at our election rumor tracker, you will see under U.S. Senate a line for Brian Kemp. And the latest update is everyone is waiting for this domino to fall.
Right.
We started this tracker again last week, maybe the week before, and the AJC has ripped this off again.
Now they have their own.
Well, not in the entirety, but they wrote a whole story about the Kemp factor and how one decision will shape Georgia's 2026 election and whether or not he runs for Senate.
Indeed.
What are you hearing?
Well, I haven't talked to anybody on the Kemp team about it, right? So this is just bits I've gathered. I don't think he's going to run. I don't think he wants to run for U.S. Senate. Now, the AJC article, as you mentioned, there's a lot of pressure being brought to bear. The recruitment effort is well underway because they look and the polls, a couple polls have shown he would win that seat easily.
Yeah.
No
other Republican is beating
Yes.
John Ossoff in the polls at this point, except for Brian Kemp.
So I think, as long as that is the case, Governor Kemp is going to the phone is going to be ringing, trying to get him to do it. But I don't think he wants to do it. That's my reading the tea leaves and looking at it. He'd rather not be a United States senator. And it's tough. I mean, you're the guy. You're Georgia, the Georgia executive, the Georgia governor is a very powerful office. Among the rankings, it's one of the most powerful governor's offices. He can do a whole lot of stuff without having to go get permission from the legislature. That's how it's structured. To do that and then to walk in as a freshman, no disrespect to the United States Senate, it's the greatest deliberative body in the world. To go from being one of one to being one of 100 and low on the totem pole with not much seniority, I don't know. That's a lot to ask. I don't know. I don't think he does it.
I don't think so either. And I have spoken to a couple members of his team, and they're very coy, but I'm reading through the lines, between the lines.
And look, I don't think he wants the Republican Party. He wants a Republican in that seat. So I don't think he's going to belabor the point. He's not going to drag it. We're going to know pretty soon, I think, because he knows that if it's not him, then somebody's got to gear up and get going, and then you're going to have to raise a lot of money. There's going to be a ton of money thrown in this race, and so I don't think he's going to belabor the point.
So I got
very much longer.
After almost immediately upon publishing this, some lobbyists in the hall began texting. Some people called me, not just lobbyists, but like congressional staffers called me. And I had like hour-long conversations with them that day. Seriously, my battery died 3:00 in the afternoon. I had to go find a charger, and I don't usually charge. I make it to nighttime, bedtime before I have to put my phone on a charger. I could not that day. It was blowing up. But I got an interesting text that said, "Hey, I've heard Mike Collins for U.S. Senate."
Mm-hmm.
And so I texted one of his staffers who I know, and I got a text back with a link to an article from The Hill from the previous weekend where he said, "I'm on Team Draft Kemp." This is Mike Collins giving the quote to The Hill.
Yes.
TheHill.com on the 8th of February, saying, "I'm on Team Draft Kemp, but if it's not Kemp, maybe me." And so that led to a very long conversation with a member of Mike Collins' team. You weren't at the Capitol today, but you know who was?
Mike Collins.
Mike Collins. And you know what he was doing?
I'm sure he was shaking as many hands as he could.
He was feeding people free barbecue.
Even smarter. Yes.
Yeah. So I went in and I talked to him. I made sure that he saw our AI generated image that we used of him, and he loved it. And
Did he make it? It wouldn't shock me if he made it his profile picture or something.
Well, he said, "I have seen this. I have seen this." And I was like, well, I asked the AI to make you look like Captain America on the streets of DC at night, and this is what it came back with. Interestingly, though, Rich McCormick's came out better. And he goes, "Well, show me McCormick's," right? So I show him McCormick's. He's like, "Oh, man." Like, he was jealous of McCormick's because McCormick's is in full Captain America regalia.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was...
the AI might have known who could do more pull-ups, and so that might have
been... Poor Rich and his pull-ups. If you go to Rich McCormick's office in D.C., he has a pull-up bar behind his desk. He just randomly jumps up and does some pull-ups. The dude he takes that whole Marine thing, very Semper Fi for life thing, very seriously.
So sometimes he reminds me of Rob Lowe's character in Parks and Rec, who was this fitness nut who would do things like, "I'm going to do some celebratory lunges," and he just starts doing lunges right there in the middle of the meeting.
It has gotten him into a little trouble when he tries to do pull-ups from suspended over the rotunda in the U.S. Capitol. Poor guy.
Mm-hmm.
The bad headline, but I wish I was kind of there to see it. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, he was at the Capitol today. Mm-hmm. For us who have been doing this election rumor tracker already, and I hate that we're already doing this so early in 2025 for the 2026 primaries.
Sure.
But it's what the people want, man. We recognize it's what you want.
Well, and you know what, Scott? It gives you a glimpse of what's going for folks who aren't. I know a lot of our listeners are at the Capitol daily or on a regular basis. This is the kind of stuff that you step into that building, you hear all this kind of stuff and more.
Yeah. It's so like entertainment for the lobbyist class.
For our listeners who don't get that opportunity or are blessed to not have to go down there every day regularly, you get a little glimpse of what's going on down there. And this is one of the talking points.
Yeah. But if you have a rumor, we do have a special email account, tips@peachpundit.com. You can send it anonymously. If you want attribution, we'll give you attribution. If we hear it, we are going to do a little bit of research to make sure it's a legitimate rumor. It's not just something made up. And I'm sorry, I'm not putting Marty Kemp on here. I had a reader reach out and say, "Where's Marty Kemp for governor?" I had actually multiple readers
Now,
do that.
if she or a member of her staff reached out,
Right.
we'd put it on there.
You know, everything that I've heard through the grapevine about Marty Kemp running for governor, it appears to me to be a joke, like some sort of trolling. I had a lobbyist last year when this all was the hottest news it was the biggest rumor in the Capitol. And so one of the guys who's been a lobbyist for like 40 years says, well, I'm just going to text her. And he texted her. Actually, he texted Brian Kemp. And Brian Kemp's reaction to this lobbyist was, you'll have to ask Marty. And so he's like, fine, I will. And so he texted Marty. And Marty's response was, well, we still have the yard signs.
That's awesome.
But if it wasn't obvious to me that was trolling or a joke at this point, I would put her on there.
Mm-hmm.
If it becomes a more serious rumor, I'll put her on there.
Yeah.
But for now, I don't think that was ever really a serious thing that Marty Kemp or the Kemp family was considering.
Maybe one day it wouldn't surprise me if one day she runs for something.
Yeah, but her husband's likely going to be a
Yes.
presidential candidate.
That's what I think too.
Yeah, I think Brian Kemp, head of the Republican Governors Association now, he makes all these international trips. He's still working hard to build jobs in Georgia by bringing any job he can from anywhere to Georgia.
Scott, I got an email just right before we went on the air. Brian Kemp will be one of the featured speakers at the National Review Institute's policy summit that's coming up in a few weeks. So
more national exposure for our
Yes.
little old governor from Georgia.
Absolutely.
It's funny because one of the things I mentioned, I was in a meeting yesterday with a state senator in Austin, Texas. They've just started their legislative session there. They only meet every 2 years, but we were talking about election law and election reforms. And I was talking about how various reforms would be beneficial to Georgia if Brian Kemp doesn't run for U.S. Senate, because he's likely to run for president. Right now, we have Brian Kemp, Buddy Carter, Mike Collins, Rich McCormick, Brad Raffensperger, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and John King, all likely to run if Brian Kemp does not.
Right.
And it's going to be a bloody, bloody primary if we have, and these are all very serious people. They would all be very serious candidates. They all bring something a little bit different to the table.
Yep.
And can I say out loud real quick, that I hope Marjorie Taylor Greene stays where she is? Is it okay as a Peach Pundit guy to say that?
You could say that. I mean, it's a free country, Scott. You can say anything. And look, this is you're the editor and publisher of this thing. You can say whatever you want, but
here's the reason why. I don't see Marjorie as somebody who can win a statewide race. I just don't. But I'm deathly afraid of who comes after her for that congressional seat.
Well, I think we know who comes at who. Well, maybe not. We can't guarantee who wins, right?
Right.
The people of the 14th might be tired of this. I don't know.
Are they though?
But well, they had
She
an
fights,
opportunity
right?
a couple of years ago we interviewed her. Remember Jennifer? What was her name?
Yeah, I remember her.
Good candidate.
All I really remember about her is that her audio was bad. That was what I really remembered. She seemed like a serious person too, but she was an unknown, right?
Right.
But if Colton Moore, who lives in that district, runs for Congress, does he win? That I would rather have Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm not gonna lie. I'd rather have it. Which brings me to just a little interlude. Today at the Capitol, if your name is Ryan Purvis, you need to message me your mailing address because the stickers came in.
Oh, right
for
on.
our YouTube audience. I'm holding them up.
You'd hold it a little closer to the camera, and maybe we'll make this the profile, the image for the podcast. It's a sticker, right, that says "I flop with Colton,"
and it's a silhouette.
PeachPundit.com.
Silhouette taken from a screen capture from his flop when Keith Williams led the lead counsel for the Speaker's office, was in his little, I guess, trying to keep him from inside the office, and Colton flopped like he was LeBron James on a soccer field.
Yeah.
In
I mean,
Europe.
if it's a, if we're using the basketball analogy, it was a foul. It was a common foul. Upon review, it would not have been upgraded to a flagrant 1, and certainly not a flagrant 2.
No,
it was a common foul, but yeah, that was a flop that would have made LeBron proud.
So I have a whole bunch of these. I have giant stacks of these, and I began passing them out to Capitol today. Very popular, very popular. The doorkeeper got a whole stack. He was very excited to receive them. If you want one, just let me know. I'll get you one. I have a bunch of them. The difference in price for 500 and 250 was like $18 or something. So I got 500 of them.
How many people work at the Capitol? You might be.
Well, I learned today that the capacity for the Gold Dome is 4,800 people.
Okay.
So
10% of them can be wearing.
But some of the I ran out today. I didn't take all of them with me. I just grabbed a couple of stacks, threw them in the bag as I was heading out this morning, and I ran out. And somebody took one to the speaker. I didn't talk to the speaker. I haven't had any conversations with the speaker.
Speaker's trying to put this all behind him. He may not want to acknowledge the existence of these.
Yeah, may not. He may not.
But I imagine he had a little
Keith Williams got one. I do hope Keith Williams got one. But everybody, it was a very positive reaction, and it does have peachpundit.com on it. It's a little promotional item for free. If you want one, let me know. If you see me in the hallways of the Capitol, I'll likely have one in my pocket. I'll give it to you.
Now, there was a pro-Colton Moore rally that
got
canceled because of the weather last week. So,
yeah, if it comes back, I'll definitely be passing those out to anybody that wants one during the rally. But, yeah, rumors do feed our audience. Let me take a quick break to pay some bills. We'll be right back.
Golden Retriever Rescue of Atlanta, GRRA, is an all-volunteer, tax-deductible charitable organization. They are dedicated to providing veterinary care, comprehensive evaluation, and foster and adoptive homes to Golden and Labrador Retrievers who are abandoned, mistreated, neglected, or left in shelters throughout Georgia. We encourage you to visit their website grra.com and help connect people and dogs that need each other in their lives. You truly can make this world a better place by helping find homes of gold for these golden-hearted pups.
Conservatives Concerned is a network of political and social conservatives who question the alignment of capital punishment with conservative principles and values. Our programs include educating conservatives about the failed death penalty system and mobilizing them to bring about its end. We come to this issue for a variety of reasons. Some believe that small government and the death penalty don't go together, especially when we compare the high costs of capital punishment to life without possibility of release. Some don't trust the state to get it right. We already know that some innocent people have been sentenced to death, and for others, it may already be too late. Some believe that the death penalty contradicts our values about protecting life. Find out more at conservativesconcerned.org.
So, nationally, there's this effort led by Elon Musk called DOGE.
Yes.
And here's the thing for me. I don't usually watch news on television. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of reading. I get my news from various different sources. Conservative sources. Sometimes I read Newsmax. Sometimes I read Fox News. Sometimes I read CNN.com. I'm really, the more I read various sources, I'm really falling in love with News Nation.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're...
I think they do a good job of playing it straight, right?
They absolutely do. And on election night, they were getting it right fastest, and it was amazing. So we do our morning reads bit now again. It's not every day. Just don't have time to do it every day. But we do have morning reads, and I'm gathering different stories from around the country, and I'm trying to find some sort of Georgia bent in them. But some of these really big national stories, like the DOGE thing, does in fact have a local impact.
Yep.
One of those impacts is hitting the CDC, which is located here in Atlanta. And some people there are seemingly going to be out of jobs.
Yeah.
And things are moving so fast right now that it appears that DOGE is making some mistakes. So there's this constant need for the media to feed your urge to be outraged.
Yes.
And one of the things I really want to encourage you on is right now is every time you read a story, it's going to create outrage. Like there's a story about millions of people receiving checks when they should be dead, like 150-year-olds or whatever. Like, just give it a minute.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, not all the facts are out yet.
Yeah.
So just take a breath. Turn off the TV. Wait for that story to completely develop. And if there is a reason to be outraged, you can still be outraged later.
Sure.
But right now, so much information is coming out. I don't know how much of it is true. This is the thing about Elon Musk. He's a salesman.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. Probably one of the smartest people on earth. He created PayPal. He has Tesla. He has SpaceX.
Mm-hmm.
He has like 6 different companies.
The boring company, which
the boring
actually
company.
does boring. Digs tunnels and stuff.
Yes, digs tunnels. Yeah. And he does things like, you remember the South American miners who fell in the well?
Yeah.
Down there. He found the way for those guys to get out, and everybody was saying, no, that's impossible. And like, he went to a pool and he demonstrated how it could happen. He is brilliant, and he has this like really analytical mind, but it doesn't mean he doesn't have a bit of salesman in him. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that comes to mind for me is he did this presentation with the Cybertruck, the Tesla truck, the cartoony looking kindergarten designed vehicle that looks horrendous.
It's kind of growing on me actually, but anyway, yeah.
My autistic son has a very negative reaction.
Oh no!
Every time he does. It's an emotional reaction when my son is an artist, and so he sees it as an affront to artistry.
Well, it's a bunch of straight lines and hard edges. So yeah.
And so he's like, oh my gosh. Right. So, but one of the things he did is he took it out to a drag strip and raced a Porsche, mm-hmm. and apparently was towing a Porsche and beat the Porsche down the drag strip. That was not towing anything. It was just, wow. So he had 2 Porsches. One was being towed by the Cybertruck. And a bunch of car guys decided, you know what? Let's see if we can recreate that. And there was 0% chance that was real.
Yeah.
Like once the car guys got involved and they recreated using a good facsimile of the trailer and the weight distribution, they got the actual models of the Porsches that were used in the promotional video.
Right.
They could not recreate the result as hard as they tried. And they wanted it to be true. Like these car guys were like disappointed that they were like, once they started doing the math on the weight because the Cybertruck, because of the batteries, weighs a ton. Like it's not more than a ton. It's a figurative ton and not the literal ton. It weighs a lot. And they weren't able to recreate it, which meant to me maybe Elon stretches some facts and figures sometimes to create an interesting narrative.
Well, I think to me, he's doing what, if you remember, he bought Twitter. And there was a lot of controversy about Twitter. Were they, shadow banning? Were they allowing certain things to trend and squashing other things? And he just released all the files and let people figure it out for themselves. So there was this flood of news of, for weeks.
Yeah, the Twitter files.
Look at this outrage and that outrage. And I think he's taken the same tactic here, not necessarily evaluating, all right, is this accurate or not? Oh my gosh, this is shocking. Put it out there. I also think there's, the concept I am all for. And you guys remember one of my predictions for the year was that DOGE would actually do something meaningful. We'd look back and we'd say they actually accomplished something. And I hope they do. The government absolutely is too big and bloated, and there's stuff that needs to, but I'm not sure that a bunch of guys, of computer programmers who were, I'm sure they're very smart people who helped make Dogecoin a thing. That doesn't mean they know how to look at contracts, to evaluate financial information and budgetary information. That's what he needs forensic accountants to come in here and look at this stuff, not the Doge bros in their backpacks and laptops. So
Yeah, he's finding a lot of things, which
yes, he is, and no doubt he is.
I'm glad he is. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
I love it.
really
Do it.
excited that we're.
But for long-term sustainability, you need a plan. You need some real achievements here.
Yeah, and the first tackle that he took was USAID, which ended up getting shut down and then put under Marco Rubio if there was an actual aid package. This is where I kind of wish Pi was here for this one, because we had this conversation several weeks ago where I asked him, are appropriations so granular as to get down to specific programs and dollar amounts?
Right.
And it really was. It's much more nebulous than that.
Right. Yeah. I think the executive has a lot of influence on how it's spent.
Right. And so they found things. I might be mixing a couple of different examples, but like small dollar amounts, like $38,000 for a pro LGBT play
in Peru.
Comic book in Peru, election influencing in India, like millions of dollars for that. And I'm glad they're finding this stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, nowhere close to $1 trillion in savings yet. Nowhere. They're at, like, they claim $55 billion. In a text message with Pi today, he's taking a much closer look at those numbers. He says it's more legitimately like $22 billion instead of 55.
Yeah.
But again,
not nothing, but not what they've claimed, right?
Right.
So
again, just let it settle, right?
Yes.
Let him do his work. He's going to flood the zone with information that I think I need to personally be suspect of until enough time goes by to verify the claims.
Yes.
And that includes Social Security and what have you. But in Georgia, Stacey Abrams is trending on Twitter as we speak, because DOGE says they found $2 billion earmarked for one of Stacey Abrams' organizations.
Yeah. So while the ads were playing, I looked at Twitter and Stacey Abrams was trending, and I thought, oh no, is she announced she's running for governor again or something? No, but what you said there, Scott. So it's tied to the EPA. So the new EPA chief, Lee Zeldin, says the revelations are very concerning. It would be money a grant that goes to something called the Power Forward Communities grant. It's meant to somehow reduce greenhouse gases, and it's an entity that a fledgling nonprofit linked to Stacey Abrams. So she's moved on to bigger and better things, and bigger and bigger, bigger and bigger graphs. It seems. Grifts, rather. So, good gracious, $2 billion. That's an astounding number.
Well, the good news is with that is, if that is true, it's been caught, and it's not likely to be spent there because it was earmarked. That was the headline. Earmarked doesn't mean it was actually
not spent
sent.
yet, but planning to be spent.
Look, I'm super excited to see what comes of this, and I'm with you. I hope he's successful in finding a whole bunch of waste. And I don't think the American taxpayers are okay with all of the different programs that USAID. That's not to say that every dollar through USAID was illegitimate or fraudulent or for controversial topics. I happen to know one person whose job it was to actually prepare meals for people in Africa who otherwise would not meet their basic dietary needs if this program was not in place. And it's been frozen, along with everything else that was under USAID.
Right. But I think the challenge for Democrats here, that they've drawn a line in the sand at that nothing can be cut. Right. And they were all, standing outside of USAID. Oh, the world is ending. That's on the wrong side, because I think I got to think, well, I'll tell you, Trump's approval rating is over 50%, I think 53% in a poll that came out recently. Has the man ever had an approval rating above water? No, not that I know of.
No.
And 70% of people in that same poll are saying, well, Trump's doing what he said he was going to do. And many people, a high percentage, I forget the exact number, approve of Elon Musk doing what he's doing, DOGE doing what it's doing. There's bipartisan support for that. So if Democrats are going to fight tooth and nail over every penny, I think they're missing the message. They should work. I said, they should work with them and say, yeah, let's cut out the goofy stuff, but we need to protect this over here. They're not doing that. They're saying you have to protect everything, the stupid stuff and the stuff that makes sense. So,
right. Not every dollar there was bad. But I have a really hard time believing that Congress actually appropriated these dollars for these specific programs too.
Well,
which lends credence to the argument that Trump is making of, hey, I have a right as the new executive here. And this is where Pi and I disagreed several weeks ago. He has a right to look at whether or not the dollars are being spent how Congress intended. And I think that's a responsible thing. It's just everything that Trump does, the media hates. As a matter of fact, you mentioned his approval rating. Did you see the Frank Luntz video?
Yes.
So a couple days ago, I posted in the morning reads a 1.5-minute video of Frank Luntz talking to Breonna Keeler on CNN. And as we know, Frank is center right. He's not of the left. He generally is more conservative than he is liberal. I don't agree with him on everything, but he makes some really good strategic points. And he has a talent for being able to go into like a focus group and extract the reason why people believe what they believe. And so she does all this bashing on Trump as an intro to this piece with Luntz. And she says, what do the American people think of Donald Trump? And he starts out by saying, they love it.
Yes.
And her reaction was like, really? Like complete disbelief. Because in the CNN bubble that they created, they're out of touch with the average American person.
Right.
They don't understand that we're tired of the debt going up and we want to do everything we possibly can to see it curbed or reduced.
Now, I think there's two dangers in this that Trump has to be aware of. And number one, eventually DOGE is going to get to programs that people like. Yeah. And that will be very interesting how you go about that. Because you're right. We can't, it's unsustainable. We've talked about this forever on this podcast. The level of federal spending is unsustainable and we're going to go off a cliff at some point in time. There's not enough money in the world to continue spending at this level. That means stuff that we all like some of it's going to go away. It has to go away. There's no choice to it. But we have to have the political will to do that. And I don't know that there's a political will to actually do that. So we'll see. I think the other danger is inflation is still high. Prices are still high at the grocery store and at the pump. And that is the real reason, the number one reason that Trump was reelected was because people thought he would do a much better job at addressing that than Biden did. So Trump's gonna have to keep his word on that, and prices have to start coming down. And pushing tariffs is not going to help that.
No. As a matter of fact, inflation is up, and I think yesterday Trump was in an interview along with Elon Musk. For Sean Hannity, where he's like, inflation's back and it's not my fault. Okay.
It's gonna be.
Yeah. We've been telling you this for ages, that if we do this, we go down this path towards tariff, which a lot of tariffs have already been implemented.
Yeah.
If we go down this path, we are the ones who are going to be paying. They become embedded taxes in every product that we buy.
Yeah.
The cost of that gets passed on to us. One of the things that's not his fault, though, is the price of eggs.
Right.
That is a direct result of something that no government can control, and that's avian influenza. We had like 3 million hen-laying birds in Georgia get wiped out by this terrible, terrible situation. Avian influenza is deadly to birds. It can spread. It could kill whole flocks easily. they have to take extreme measures anytime it's detected in an area, and then they have to go out, like in rings, distance in a radius away from that flock, and kill every other flock, and you end up with what we're seeing right now, which is $7 a dozen eggs. Right? That's not Donald Trump's fault. It is his problem.
Yes.
But it is not his fault. Now, then the other problem with eggs as an inflationary thing is they're an ingredient in a whole bunch of other things. So the price of everything else ends up going up as a result of that. So some of it can be blamed on that. But when it comes to the tariffs, Bob Bushman, the state economist, who I know to be a Republican in the traditional sense, not a MAGA Republican. I went through Republican leadership for Georgia with him. He was in my class. Went to the legislature and said, hey, we export a whole bunch of things out of Georgia too. And you're looking at a 6% hit on the economy if these tariffs are allowed to stand for any extended period of time.
Right.
That's potentially frightening.
Yes.
You have a reduction in the economy as a result of these, and in addition to higher prices.
Well, remember, Scott, during Trump 1.0, he slapped a bunch of tariffs on China. They retaliated by not buying our chickens. For example, Georgia's ag industry was hit hard by that tariff war with China the first time around. So much so that Trump had to send emergency relief to people. So the economic impacts are real, and of course that trickles, as you mentioned, all through the economy.
It does.
In all sorts of ways.
Yeah, people don't understand how interconnected different products are to the economy as a whole. Fuel prices is a great example. When fuel prices go up, the price of everything, every good you buy has to come on a truck.
Right.
Or you have to drive to the store. There is a cost to obtaining those goods that are driven up by higher fuel prices.
Yep.
So, inflation is here. It's going to get worse if some of these economic policies are left in place.
Yeah.
Not all of it, listen to me very carefully, not all of it is from Donald Trump's policy decisions, but there's a good amount that are. And let's just be real with you. And I love the DOGE stuff. Yeah, I generally have a more positive than negative feeling of Donald Trump's presidency thus far. I am worried about the way he's handling Ukraine, though.
Oh, gosh. Yes. Goodness, Scott. Jimmy Carter, fairly or unfairly, was tagged as the guy who lost Iran because the Shah fell during his tenure and the radical Islamists took over. And it's been, we know the consequences of that that have impacted the Middle East for 40 years now, 50 years now. If we lose Ukraine to Russia, that I can't even think of the impact that's going to have on Europe and on the world for decades and decades to come. It's going to be horrific. And,
I feel like
including additional loss of life of the people of Ukraine.
Yeah,
because they're not just going to sit there and say, "Sure, take over our country."
Shortly before,
no matter what Trump says.
Shortly before we came to record, Breitbart reposted Donald Trump Truth, where this is interesting to me. He referred to Zelensky as a comedian that became president, and how he's been stealing money.
Dictator. He even calls him a dictator.
Calls him a dictator, but it was like the jab. He's a comedian. Mr. President, weren't you a reality TV star at one time? Weren't you in the ring at WrestleMania one time? Didn't you body slam Vince McMahon or something?
Playboy videos?
I mean,
one time.
I'll never forget the religious leaders standing for a photo with Donald Trump in his office with a big frame photo of the cover of Playboy magazine.
It was the Liberty University guy who's been run off since.
Yeah. So I'll never forget that. But the Ukraine thing is concerning to me because he started out with, if Ukraine hadn't started this thing, we wouldn't be here.
Good
Yeah,
grief.
that's not what happened.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest about it.
I can't think that he really thinks that that's what happened. I mean, come on.
If that's not what he thinks, why is he saying it?
Yeah, I mean, trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, is this some sort of bizarre negotiating tactic? Now, I think the problem is the people who need to make the concessions, the side that needs to make the concessions are not the Ukrainians, it's the Russians.
Right.
Leave. Abandon these lands and never to return.
But the most concerning part of this for me, though, is that they excluded the Ukrainians from the initial round of talks.
How do you do that? That's monstrously wrong.
I feel like Ronald Reagan, if he could come back from the grave, would be slapping us over the head saying, I did not defeat the USSR during the Cold War so that you could kiss a KGB agent's boots.
Right.
Like, get over it.
Yes.
Ronald Reagan would be, you could probably right now connect some wires to the grave of Ronald Reagan because he's probably spinning so fast it would create electricity. We could probably power part of Southern California and they can end some of the brownouts they usually have out there. Just from Ronald Reagan's tomb.
Right.
It's stunning to me.
Yeah.
All right. Enough Donald Trump. Almost enough Donald Trump. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we do need to mention, maybe you're about to mention this, that among the DOGE cuts...
Oh, the CDC stuff.
Hit the CDC. Ahead. So that does hit Atlanta. We
started with that, and I went away from it rather quickly.
Yeah, it seems about 10% of their employees, or I don't know, 1,300 or so, are... And look, Governor Kemp, I'm sure if Governor Kemp decides to run, this will be an issue because he kind of defended it and said, hey, you know what, the government can afford to downsize.
This is an example of what I'm talking about, though.
Whereas
Take a breath.
Ossoff, was aghast.
The Democrats have been, there's a state rep, Syra Draper. Mm-hmm. She may represent the area where the CDC is located.
She might, yep.
I know she's in that general neighborhood, if her district's close to there, if it's not that actual area. So she's been on this for a minute. But again, my original premise stands. You don't know if every one of those jobs was mission critical for the CDC.
Yeah.
So let's give it a minute and let the details shake out before we get outraged.
Yeah, and it seems that, one thing they're doing, I mean, first they offered buyouts. If you want to leave, I think it was $25,000. Take this $25,000 and leave. Some people did that. And now they've gone after people who are on their probationary status. Now, it seems there's some misinformation that they pushed out. Being on probationary status does not mean that you're a bad employee. It means you're a new employee. This is common practice in the private sector. In the public sector, in the federal government, from what I understand, you're on probationary status for a year. And what that means is they can fire you. It's a lot easier to fire you. And so they have, I don't think they just blanketly fired. There might be a cause for a lawsuit, but I think some, like at the CDC, what the article that we'll link to mentions that they asked the agency, are there any of these probationary people you want to keep? And so there's, some attempt to keep good ones.
So, tangentially related to Donald Trump is over the weekend, I guess, I wasn't aware of this. I guess I'm on Bill Simon's email list.
Yeah.
I don't always open them. I do from time to time, just to take a look at what he's railing on.
I didn't get one. I always used to get them. I didn't get this one.
Well, if there's anybody he was going to take off the list, it'd be me, because he can't stand me these days. And I don't blame him. I can't stand him either. But Bill Simon runs a political blog called Political Vine. He's pretty passionate about it. He let it go dormant for a while. When Peach Pundit came back, he restarted up his thing.
Sure.
It's very infrequent. I don't even visit his website. I don't know what. Yeah, but I've also found that a lot of times Bill Simon's not very accurate in how he describes things, and he makes assumptions about things that are not accurate either. But he broke this story, so we give him all credit for breaking the story.
Yeah.
Where somebody sent him a letter that they had obtained, and I'm very curious as to how. He doesn't describe how in the newsletter.
Yes.
But this letter to Donald Trump from former Majority Whip Christian Coomer, who was thrown off the bench and disbarred for a couple
yeah.
of years
Yes.
for ripping off one of his clients. And there is
Yeah.
no doubt at this point, he absolutely ripped off his clients. And if he had a really good attorney that he only got a 2-year suspension, almost anybody else did the things that Chris Coomer was proven with irrefutable proof to have done to his client. They would never be allowed to practice law ever again. So I have no love. I've said on this podcast that if Christian Coomer was on fire, I would not pee on him. I'd go to the bathroom instead. I would. I have no respect for the guy. I think he's a complete and total scumbag. I never felt like he treated me with any level of respect. I tried with him constantly, but the arrogance, the whole thing with him, I never really genuinely got a good feeling. I never felt like he was a friend. I always felt like he was.
I'd pee on him and put the fire out, but
at least you would. You're like, I think it's well established by now. You're a kinder person than I am.
Yeah, look, he was helpful to me when I ran for Secretary of State, but ran hot and cold with Christian Coomer.
Yeah,
over the years.
Just a little background. I have the letter.
Wow.
I was able to extract it from a file that was included in the Political Vine newsletter, and I want to read it to you. Have you read it yet?
Some of it, most.
All right.
Some
We're gonna read it. We're gonna interrupt for reaction to various paragraphs.
Do we need to have some background music? Piano,
that would be great.
A soft piano playing or something.
It would be awesome. So this was a letter to Donald Trump from Chris Coomer dated January 24th, so late last month, a little less than a month ago. Dear Mr. President, you sent a note to my wife, Heidi Coomer, on December 3rd, 2024, responding to her letter to you. Your kind words gave us a sense of hope we have not felt in years, and they have given me the boldness to write this letter. So far, so good.
Mm-hmm.
I ask that you consider me for the post of U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia.
Wow.
As my enclosed resume shows, I have long been a tenacious fighter for justice in the courtroom, in public service, in military service, and in the causes for which I volunteer. I want to put that tenacity and skill to work for America once again by pursuing justice for those who have been unlawfully targeted by leftist activists parading as prosecutors and judicial officers. In short, I want to prosecute the persecutors. Stop here for a moment. I want to prosecute the persecutors is a terrifying statement from what I know of the character of the man.
Yeah.
This is terrifying to me. It actually gives me goosebumps on the back of my neck.
Yes, because he would use what he's saying is he'd use the office to, presumably to go after Trump's enemies, but to go after his enemies too?
Yes.
Which include half the legislature? Former and current members of the legislature?
It goes on. I have the experience and toughness it will take to go after these vile, vicious people. I will rip off their masks of fake justice to reveal the ugliness that lies beneath. What happened to you should never happen again. The bad actors who abused you under the color of law should be punished. Others who are now talking openly about further persecution of people because of their political thought must be deterred. An aggressive and unrelenting prosecution of the Georgia perpetrators will accomplish those goals. He doesn't play around. He's basically saying it. He goes right for it. He's saying, look, if they didn't have a case, I agree that the Fonnie Willis case is bullshit. I've said that over and over again here. I never thought that case should be prosecuted. I don't think it ever will fully be prosecuted. I was having this conversation with a staffer in the Senate, in the Senate and Georgia General Assembly today, where I was saying, look, this is going to get kicked over to Pete Skandalakis at the Prosecuting Attorneys Council, and he's already indicated he doesn't want to prosecute this case
Right.
because he would have went after Burt Jones.
Right.
But he didn't.
If he thought there
because-
was a case, he would have.
Right. There's no case. You're never
Right.
going to find another prosecutor in the state that's going to take it. So otherwise, they would have went after Burt, and they didn't. So
Yeah.
there's no case against Burt. There's no case against anybody else, is really what Pete's going to say. So
Yeah.
we're just waiting for that to eventually shake out.
Yeah.
But he's basically saying, just because they went after you, I will rip off their masks of fake justice to reveal the ugliness that lies beneath. I think, he was okay. It goes on. As Heidi reported to you, I have fought against some of the same people who weaponized Georgia's justice system against you and your allies. My bar license was suspended, and I lost my judicial office as a result of the years of lawfare against me. Time out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chris, you did that, man.
Yeah.
You did that. You decided to rip off your client. You decided to give yourself loans when you're not allowed to give yourself loans. You
So
decided
is he saying
to-
he's going
to-
to go after that family
Who
who complained.
who engaged in lawfare? You
Right.
broke the law. Well, I guess. Well, it's probably too strong to say you broke the law. You broke professional standards for your chosen profession.
Right.
The Georgia Bar Association has a problem with you.
Yeah.
They didn't want you to ever practice law again in this store. And again, just because you had a really good attorney, you got 2 years suspension instead of completely and totally losing your ability to practice law. I mean, Lynn Wood had to give up his law license, and you somehow got off.
He didn't
And-
steal anybody's money. He just
he just made up a bunch of
crazy
stuff.
claims.
Right. He made crazy claims violating the professional standards for attorneys in this state.
Right.
And you actually used your position to think that you were going to rob an old elderly man
Yeah.
of his nest egg and his retirement to pad your own pockets so you could take some trips. And all that came out during this
Yeah.
case.
Yep.
None of this is alleged. It was proven.
Yep.
That was not lawfare against Christian Coomer. How delusional are you?
So U.S. attorneys, if I remember correctly, don't they require congressional approval?
You
As
know
I
who would
recall,
know? Our
BJ
friend
Pack-
BJ Pack would know.
I'm trying to remember, maybe, and if I got the facts wrong, I apologize. But BJ had to be voted on. It was kind of a batch. Here's a bunch of U.S. attorneys and other things. There's not necessarily congressional hearings in the sense that you see for cabinet secretaries and so forth, but they're voted on. I'm going to Google that.
So he says his bar license was suspended. He lost his judicial office because of the lawfare against him. These issues will not impede my ability to serve in the role of U.S. attorney. Rather, they make me more determined to see true justice prevail over those who have perverted our justice system. I invite you to ask the Honorable Doug Collins and Honorable Barry Loudermilk about my reputation for hard work and determination. Very respectfully, Christian A. Coomer. Now, look.
I was right, Scott. U.S.
Yeah.
attorneys require the Senate confirms the appointment. They serve 4-year terms.
Look, if Matt Gaetz can't get confirmed, Christian Coomer is not getting confirmed.
Yeah.
What a massive waste of
For
time.
different reasons, we should point out, right? We're not saying any of those kinds of.
I was tempted to reach out to Barry Loudermilk's office because I'm very close with that office. There are some people over there that are dear friends of mine, very dear friends, and I didn't want to put them on the spot.
Right.
So I'm going to engage in speculation at this point. Recognize I don't have any insider knowledge here, other than the people there that I know and the quality of the human being that Barry Loudermilk is. I know Barry has gotten a bad rap from the media, especially with Liz Cheney and some of the false accusations made of him. For example, the January 6th commission said that he was giving reconnaissance tours. Barry actually walked me through the hallway on a visit up there a couple of years ago to show me the route that those people took. He recreated it for me so I could see what they were taking pictures of. And there are certain architectural features that are interesting. Like the light fixtures are eagles and they're interesting looking. And if you're a patriotic American, that might be something you take a picture of. There is nothing else there to take a picture of except for that light fixture. So, and he actually pointed out, this is the camera that they're on. So you're being recorded right now by the very same camera that recorded them. And so he got a bad rap from the media. And there are liberals, like my mom was calling me from Florida. Your boy Barry is evil. I'm like, Mom, no. Right. Turn off MSNBC. Turn it off. Just stop watching that garbage. I don't think Barry Loudermilk would put his neck on the line for a guy like Christian Coomer. There might have been a time when Christian Coomer wasn't such an obvious scumbag, and there wasn't empirical evidence that he was a scumbag. But now, I can't speak for Doug Collins. I don't know Doug Collins nearly as well. I don't think Barry Loudermilk would give him a thumbs up.
Yeah, I got to think, I mean, maybe I'm speaking out of turn here. I got to think both those guys would, if this thing picks up momentum, would be reaching out to the president saying, Mr. President, please don't. That's a bad idea. And let me tell you why.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that. I just don't think. Again, stranger things have happened.
Yes.
So.
That's what, I mean, Matt Gaetz got nominated at one point in time. So
he did. Anything else to add on this before we move to our quick hicks?
No, I think, well, I guess I should say, without revealing any confidence, you and me and some of our other friends have been noticing that Christian Coomer of late has been about as pro-Trump as anybody on planet Earth. Kind of like out of nowhere. Yeah, kind of like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So this seems to be the manifestation of a plan.
I forgot Chris Coomer and I were Facebook friends, and when I realized that we still were, I unfriended him. So
yeah, somehow I'm not, and that's I don't recall defriending him, but that so.
But I still get to see some of his posts because it outrages some of our friends and some of the things he does. And he has been so overtly Trump when I don't think he was before. I don't think there was anything to indicate that he was like super Trump, but now he's super Trump, and it's obvious why. He's trying to get a job.
He's MAGA all the way, man.
Yeah, and now in fairness, let's just put this in a little bit of perspective before we move on to our quick hicks. Yeah, again, I don't necessarily automatically believe anything that Bill Simon brings out, but the AJC did do a story on this.
Yes.
And they reached out to Christian Coomer and they asked him, did you write this letter? And he would neither confirm nor deny. So, which lends me to believe that Bill probably got it right this time.
Yeah. It's either he wrote it or it's a very good fake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, I've known Bill Simon a long, long time. I consider him a friend. Sometimes he considers me a friend. Sometimes he doesn't. I don't know where I stand at the moment, but sometimes he gets it right. And it seems to me this is a time he got it right.
Yeah. The problem with Bill is that when he gets it wrong and you show him how he got it wrong, he double downs and calls you stupid.
Not always. I've seen him. Anyway.
I've never seen it. You're going to have to show me evidence. I've never seen it. I've shown him. We've had blog posts about how wrong he is.
That's because he hates you. That's a different.
Yeah, but I never understood why he hated me. I've never tried to go out of my way to stick a finger in that guy's eye. But when he, like this Lauren Daniel thing that happened last year, where he was claiming that AFP was or working with her campaign to promote her
improperly, right?
Right.
I mean, AFP supports all kinds of candidates, right?
Right.
And
they do
have every right to.
And he was talking about how you can't have a certain DPI of an image for print without having the original. And I showed him how to do it.
Yeah.
I sent him links on how to do it. And it was all in the blog post of he's making false claims to stoke outrage. And he doubled down and is like, I'm the idiot, even though I just showed him how it's done. And so I've never had the experience with him where when I prove him wrong, he admits that he's wrong. On the other hand, if I'm proven wrong, I'm like, oh, crap, I'm sorry I was wrong. We'll move on. Quick hicks. Kelly Loeffler was approved for Small Business Administration today.
Yes.
52-46. That was a slightly tighter margin than I thought it would be.
Yeah. I'm a little surprised she's a former colleague. she was a member of the Senate. So but nevertheless, 50 to paraphrase the great Georgia Tech coach Paul Johnson, 52 is more than 46, and that's all she needed. That's all she needed. So congrats to her. I think she'll do a great job there. I
really think that was one of his more solid nominations. I really do. I'm glad for her. I've only gotten to know her a little bit, not deeply personally, but everything that in my personal interactions, I've been impressed by her. What else? Hurricane Helene relief has passed after Trump denied the extension.
Yeah. So I don't know what's all going on here. President Kemp, maybe get a little ahead of myself there. Governor Kemp,
one can dream,
asked the White House for additional time for Georgians impacted by Hurricane Helene to apply for relief via FEMA. Trump denied that. And I don't know, I heard Eric Erickson talking about it. He would probably know more than me. This wasn't meant to be, reigniting the war between that Trump has waged on Kemp below these many years, but rather FEMA's like out of money, and DOGE is coming to visit with them, and the president wanted to see these sorts of things funded a different way, like through Congress, which makes sense. But our folks need help now. These folks need help now, and so that's why I think we saw this. It was let me see if I get the bill right. House Bill 223. Representative James Burchett was the principal author, and he and Majority Leader F. Strachan sent out a press release jointly thanking the legislature. It passed the House unanimously, and if I'm reading it right, it allows a number of things to happen, up to about $200 million. So it's substantial relief headed to the areas of our state that were impacted by that storm. A lot of it, our agriculture industry.
Yeah. The Democrats are really worried about a lawsuit. I guess Section 504.
Yeah.
That Chris Carr has brought. They keep saying that it will end all special needs education.
And Carr's part, there's, I think, 17 attorneys general.
Right. It's really about gender-affirming care being included.
And a last-minute Biden rule, Biden changed to that program.
So the Democrats are learning nothing. They keep double down on this gender ideology stuff. It's the reason they lost. It is the reason they lost. Inflation, yes, but the most effective Trump campaign commercial was Kamala Harris is for they, them, Donald Trump is for you. I don't know why they continue down this path.
Yeah,
and they're scaremongering parents.
I mean, as I understand, 504 designations they're in schools, right? And it's meant to be, for most part, they're temporary. It's different than IEP. An IEP is a student has gone through a long process. They've been checked out. This student needs this for a long time, maybe forever.
Right.
504 are more temporary. So, like a kid breaks his arm, he needs a little help in school, right? And so the 504 accommodation helps him. And so adding gender dysphoria to that seems out of place.
Yeah, it's a continuation of their gender ideology agenda, and that's the reason they lost. And they're scaremongering parents into thinking that they're going to lose the benefits from 504.
Senator Josh McLaren had a very dramatic press conference.
Syra Draper was in the well today as well, and I think she actually had a press conference too. A Delta jet flipped over in Toronto.
Yes,
nothing like flying Delta and being 1,000 or more miles away from home, requiring a flight back on Delta to hear a Delta jet flipped over.
Yeah.
It took some moron...
In Canada, you can't blame Trump for it. I mean,
exactly. That's exactly where I was going. It took some moron 0.2 seconds on MSNBC to say it was because he fired a bunch of FAA people. It's like, it was true. What? Did you fail geography class? Or are you really wanting Canada to be the 51st state?
Yeah, that's exactly. They're already... They're trying to manifest it.
I have not chanted "Go Dale Go" this much since Dale Earnhardt was burning up the track at every major speedway. Dale Washburn has gotten his bill out of its first hurdle in subcommittee. 3 no votes. All 3 Republicans. Marcus Wiedauer and Martin Moptahan were 2 of those that voted no. But I told Dale today, go Dale, go.
Yeah.
We're rooting for him. And WABE is pulling the plug on Politically Georgia's daily radio show. Hey, WABE, we're here. Peach Pundit, we're here.
Yeah, so I think from what I understand, it's going to now be one of the AJC's political podcasts.
Yeah.
So
we don't know all the details of what happened back there.
Dead.
Yeah.
Just in a different...
You can still get them on anywhere you get podcasts, just like you can get Peach Pundit the podcast from anywhere you get your podcast. That's going to do it for our show, I think. Right? Did you have anything else, Buzz? You wanted to...
No. That's enough. Enough outrage for today.
Yeah. Again, take a breath, folks. If you want to join our friends that we call the People Who Rock, head on over to patreon.com/Peach Pundit. Sign up for one of our tiers. Give us a like on this podcast. Anybody who gives us a 5-star review, I will give you a I Flop with Colton sticker. Just send me a screenshot at Scot@peachpundit.com, and I will, at my own expense, drop one of these little beauties in the mail to you with a 5-star review. If you want to join this awesome list of people, here they are. Their names are Ryan Purvis, Ron Daniels, Jordan Reed, our anonymous contributor, Stuart Wilkinson, James Hall, Ryan Graham, Benjamin Hurst, Reed Powell, John Vestal, Shannon Ferguson, Hank Burnham, Tony West and our friends at Americans for Prosperity, Ari Schaefer, Sam Thomas, Mike Buchert, Colin Martin, Jeff Cobble, Bo Brannon, Brett Harrell, and our friends at Conservatives Concerned, and Robert Lee, and our friends at Lee 6 Media. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Go Jackets.